Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is 11:07, December 28th, getting close to the start of 2026. So, there seems to be some cool movies. I watched a YouTube review or show on new horror films that are coming out. I am really excited that horror is, I mean, arguably you could say horror right now is the biggest it's ever been. I typically watch a lot of the old shit, the 70s and 80s. But I do see a lot of those films like those films have always been so influential, but I do see it kind of coming back around. Especially when it comes to, say, practical effects. But it's mixed, but I think there's some very good things coming out. There's some movies coming out that look pretty promising for next year, especially when it comes to horror films. So, kind of excited. But today is going to be kind of a loose list of films. I do have my top two films that I will definitely talk about a lot. But I wanted to do my best film experiences or best movie experiences, best movies of 2025, and probably and I'll also like do a little thing on my best my best experiences going to the movies, like the actual experience. But first off, I'm going to talk about my favorite films of 2025, like just kind of a loose list. Even though I definitely have one or two that is definitely kind of in the top spot. Um, so one movie that I did see, I thought it was really, really good. I did have some issues around it, but I thought as a movie, it was very well made. It was all original, and that is Sinners. That came out earlier this year. I did see that in the theater. That was a pretty good movie. I do want to see it again. There were some things about that film that I did have a little bit of an issue with, but I thought overall it was a very good film. I do want to see it again. I only saw it once in the theater, but definitely as far as the film going experience, it was good. It was great to see something that was not an IP. It was not based on a book. It was all an original concept and story. Sinners. That movie has been talked a lot about this year, and I think and it's hyped, but I think it's all overall pretty worth it. I did do a review on this film, and I was a little bit critical of it, and I still have that feeling, but I do want to see it again. I'm willing to give it more chances. Overall, as a film, though, it's very good. It's very well directed. It's very well acted, and I do like that we got to see something totally fresh and unique because sometimes that doesn't happen, and it's kind of a rare thing, unfortunately, with the world of sequels and Marvel movies and all of this stuff. So, and again, sequels and franchises, that's not anything really new, but it does feel like that's more of a thing now than ever, and or remakes, and just even franchises that put out kind of terrible films, but they just keep going because people are paying for them. Movies like The Conjuring, and just like, okay, we just need to pull the plug on this guy. But as far as seeing original movies in the theater, that overall were very good, were good experiences, and I do want to see it again, even though I did have issues with it. Sinners, definitely check that out. Very popular movie, has been very, very much praised, and for the most part, rightfully so. I was glad to see that in the theater. So that was very, very cool. Another movie that I saw in the theater that it was a good movie and maybe to a degree better than I thought. But I will say I had issues with the film because of how it had this idea of where it felt like it was holding your hand in a lot of key points in the story, and you were kind of being told of what to think or what to feel, and it felt like the story just couldn't let the viewer breathe and just be able to come to your own conclusions and not have to be led, you know, throughout each um, plot line or plot points of the story. But mixed in with that, there was some really brilliant writing. Like some of the writing was like beautiful. The set design was incredible. The acting, some of the acting was amazing. Some of the action was really great, and it did have something new and fresh to say in a lot of ways, and that is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. I got to see that in the theater. I got to see it in 4K, and that film, obviously it was a Netflix production, and it was weird because it had a very limited release, but I got a chance to see it in the theater. It was only in the theater for like 2 weeks, as far as I know, and now it's streaming, so you can see it, on Netflix. Those bastards. But I, you know, I was excited, and I saw it on Halloween weekend, which was really cool. Obviously, for obvious reasons, so it was very cool to see it in the theater. I saw it at the Strand, and it's a long film, but I definitely felt there were criticisms of the film that people said. I did hear a lot of mostly good things, but I did hear a lot of negative things going into it, where people did say it was way too long. Um, it was very silly and very heavy-handed as far as like this whole thing of like leading the viewer uh, throughout this path of like, okay, now you should feel empathy towards the monster. Now this is where you should feel sad. This is why Dr. Frankenstein is such a bastard. He's got bad parents. Here again, if you in case you weren't wondering again or you forgot, his parents are very, very bad. He's got family issues. He's got daddy. And those things to a degree are true. But I didn't think the movie dragged. I think the movie it is long. It is close to 3 hours, but I didn't feel like it dragged at all. I thought it moved along. The editing was really good. Visually, it's stunning. I mean, Guillermo del Toro. I mean, when he's on, he's on. I don't think that this movie is as good is up there with like The Devil's Backbone. I don't think it was as good as Pan's Labyrinth, where those movies, like those two movies, for instance, are, and especially Pan's Labyrinth, just pure, cinematic mastery. Those movies are just perfect. And this movie had flaws, but I thought it was better than I thought. And it's a retelling of a classic monster story that's been told a billion times. So there's always going to be a set of, to a degree, there's always going to be around that a little bit of fatigue going into it, because this is yet again another incarnation of this classic story that we've seen, a billion times. But I thought what Guillermo del Toro did, it's very close to the novel, but he did take it in some unique areas, especially around where the film really does. Uh, it has this unique perspective of where it also comes from the monster's perspective, which we haven't really seen. Um, but it does suffer for some pretty bad writing and the direction. But it's mixed, because I think there is writing in this film. Some of the screenplay is amazing, and it's more good than bad, I would say. And I was really excited, and overall, it was a very cool experience to see it on the big screen. And it did not drag, but it was a good experience overall. I do recommend people to see it. I going into it, I was very, very skeptical and kind of worried about it, but it was better than I thought. I will say that. Not perfect. It's not Pan's Labyrinth, but worth your time, and felt very fortunate to have seen it in the theater. Definitely. Another movie that I liked, that I thought was really, really good, pretty much from top to bottom, and I've only seen it once. I got to see it in the theater this year. That movie was Weapons. I got to see that in the theater by the same team who brought that movie out, Barbarian, which I still have not seen, and I've been wanting to see for so long, but it's never gotten a physical media release. But I've heard that that movie's amazing. Weapons was really good. I thought that movie um, was pretty much flawless. I I enjoyed the whole experience. I went into that movie pretty cold. I thought the marketing campaign for Weapons was really good. It did a really great job with trailers. The trailers um, were great because it didn't answer its own questions. You know, it didn't really give away anything. It didn't let any of the surprises out. I thought it just really, like, when I saw the trailer for it, or trailers, because there were a few, I thought it did a really great job. Like, I was kind of like, man, I wish this was what, this was what movie trailers used to be like. I mean, the whole point of a trailer is to kind of entice you and excite you and bring you, want to, and you you want to see it. You want to, like, you want, you know, those questions answered, and you're engaged and you're intrigued by it, and it piques your interest. It shouldn't, like, do that, but then also say, well, this is what happens. This is, and it plays like a highlight reel of what the movie actually is, and it. But I thought the marketing campaign for Weapons was really good. It just piqued my interest, like when I saw the trailers, and it was really good. It was very original. That's the other thing that was really great. Along with how I liked Sinners overall, even though I felt like Sinners. I thought, well, in comparison, I would say I felt Weapons was more solid. I felt like it was more cohesive. Um, Not to keep talking about Weapons, but I felt, and again, I want to see it again. But the problem that I had with that film was that I thought it was really good, but, and I thought it delivered the goods for the most part. But I felt like it went a little bit too off the rails as far as, because the movie's very grounded, and it does become a vampire film, but there are certain things that took me out of that space of where, um, there were some decisions that I felt were, um, so outside the box that it ultimately didn't work, and it took me out of the film, the story part. But anyway, Weapons, I felt, was pretty much flawless. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I went into it really cold. I had just seen the trailers for it. That was it. And I thought the trailers were really great. And this movie was pretty hyped, and it got a lot of good reviews. And I have to say, it's pretty spot on, pretty accurate. I want to see it again. I saw it in the theater. Probably as far as horror films go this year, definitely one of the best, if not the best. I mean, very cool, really original, uh, pretty shocking. There's moments in this film that I think were, or are, like, legitimately scary, and very great. The cast was great. The writing was great. Great special effects, practical effects. And again, like Sinners, it's not a movie based on an IP or a book, or it's not part of a franchise. It's totally its own thing, and that is so cool to me, and gets a, even if I don't like the movie, that to me gets a star next to its name. And this movie really had, an original thing to say, and it was really cool. It felt like it was influenced by, you know many different genres. It's kind of a drama. It is, um, and then it's like kind of this crazy, bonkers kind of horror, film at the same time, or at least the direction that it goes into. And, it's also, like kind of a thriller as well. Really, really cool. Really great cast. Um, Definitely recommend it. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I definitely want to see it again because it's definitely one of the best horror films. It was really fun seeing it in the theater too. It really was. It was really, really fun. And then so these next two movies I'm going to talk about, which are the last two movies that I can that I can name that I really, really liked. Well, actually, I should say another movie that I actually really, really liked that I'm surprised I don't hear anybody talk about, but I thought it was really good. I haven't heard it mentioned anywhere, which I'm really surprised because it's very good. But the most recent Knives Out film, really, really good. Really good movie. Really, just great writing. I love the original because this was the third one in the trilogy. But the new one, the new Knives Out film, was really, really great. I'm surprised I don't hear anybody talking about this film. I don't hear anybody mentioning this film really at all, which I'm really surprised. Definitely the best one since the first one. Pretty much just as good as the first one. The second one not so good, but this one was really good. And again, it's something totally original. It is, I mean, it's part of a franchise, but each movie is very different from each other. They are their own stories. Really good though. I was really impressed. I saw that in the theater as well, but definitely one of the better films I saw this year, especially when it comes to going to the movies. So I definitely recommend checking that out. The new Knives Out film, very very cool. And again, there's two more movies to talk about, and these movies are both. I think they're masterpieces, and I only seen them both one. I got to see them both in the theater, and I was just totally blown away by them. And I would almost say they're tied for first place, but there might be one. The one I'm going to be covering after this film, might be ahead of that, and where that might be the best movie that I've seen of 2025. But but this movie that I'm going to talk about now is The Long Walk. I just got this on Blu-ray. I haven't watched it yet. I got it from Santa Claus, and I did see this movie when it came out in the theaters, and I was totally floored by it. It's a Stephen King adaptation. It's unbelievable. It's such a I think this movie is a masterpiece. I was blown away by everything of this movie. This movie was about riveting performances, and just a kind of a gut wrenching story. It has such an emotional quality to it that was so powerful. Like I didn't see that coming. I saw it in the theater and I knew a little bit about it. I knew it was a Stephen King adaptation, and I heard it was based on this book, which apparently, well, I haven't read the book, but I had heard that this movie was based on one of his books, and that it was actually the first Stephen King book, or first book that Stephen King published ever. It was his first book. And I think it came out in the 60s. And I had heard that the book is absolutely like a masterpiece. I do like Stephen King quite a bit, so I was really intrigued. But the other thing I was so surprised with this movie is just how brutal. This movie is so brutal. Easily the most brutal movie on this entire list as far as, well, practical effects or gore. But it is brutal as fuck, like super brutal. And but it's also a very beautiful film. It's kind of a depressing movie in a lot of ways, but I don't know. It also has a sense of hope. It does have one of the most brutal kind of endings to a movie. I've heard people talk about this movie in a lot of ways where they said that this movie is just, well, I've heard a few people on YouTube and some critics alike saying that this was the best movie that they saw this year, from top to bottom. But because this movie is so dark and shockingly brutal, they don't think they could watch it again because it's such a visceral experience. And I can understand that, but I think this movie is there's a lot of levity to it. I think that this movie has it's not like I mean, yes, it's incredibly shocking and it's incredibly brutal and it is depressing, but I think the writing is so great. I think there's a lot of levity. There's even a lot of humor in this movie. It's such an emotional story. It's a very human story, and there's a lot of levity to it. It's not unrelenting. I don't think this is a movie that is just brutal or just this incredibly stark and unforgiving experience the whole way through. I think that this movie is it's got a lot of different colors and hues. There's it's a it's got this real emphasis on love and friendship and uh, helping other people through tough times. But there's also a lot of comedic aspects to this movie that I thought for this movie definitely was needed because it is such a brutal story. And I think if this movie was all the like just doom and gloom the entire way, then yeah, I could see it being a movie that might be hard to watch again. I'm really looking forward to watching this on Blu-ray. I have not watched it yet. I did see it in the theater, and it's visually it's just a spectacular feast. So I'm really curious to see how what the transfer of this movie will be like on Blu-ray. But I think this movie has a lot of levity. Again, it has. It definitely reminds me of like, as far as the dramatic aspects of Stephen King stories like Stand by Me, Shawshank Redemption. Really great human stories, great human characters that are thrust in these very, into a very complex situation or situations. But there's a lot of, there's a lot of great drama. There's a lot of great comedy. There's levity to the story. It's not just um, a shock fest throughout the entire thing. I think this movie has a lot of levity. Oppenheimer, which was directed by Christopher Nolan, is a movie that is so stark and kind of a dismal movie and so dry, which I did like that movie, but I felt like that movie had zero levity to it. It was so stark and so serious that it was exhausting. I think The Road has all of the levity that you need for a good story, and especially being that this movie is very dark, it's needed even more. But fantastic movie. I mean, masterful performances, masterful direction. The film score is absolutely incredible. The kills are amazing and just fucking brutal as all hell. I was shocked when I saw this in the theater. I didn't think it was gonna go to where the places that it did go, and I was just like, holy mackerel, like brutal as hell. And it's a drama, it's a coming of age story, it's a survival film, it's a dystopian kind of science fiction film. It's definitely and it definitely has elements of horror. So it's got a little bit of everything of what Stephen King is kind of known for. Primarily he's known for being a horror writer, and this definitely has horror elements without a doubt. But it's got a lot of different things, which I really loved, and just an absolutely fantastic experience, like no other. I can't recommend it enough. And I'll definitely do another review. I did review this film when I first saw it, and I'll definitely do another review for it when I watch it on Blu-ray. Very excited. And finally, and I don't think I've left out any movies that I've seen. I mean, there were a few films I saw in the theater that I was pretty disappointed with, but I can't think. I think I've talked about most of the movies that I saw in the theater. But this last movie I'm going to talk about was just uh, pure pure magic, and that is One Battle After Another by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro. This movie was a masterpiece from top to bottom. enthralling, completely enthralling. I got to see it in the theater. I almost saw it again in the theater, and I kind of regret not seeing it in the theater because this is truly, truly the very definition of why the movie going experience is so important and why it's such an integral part of of life, really, or going to a film and that total immersion in full sight and sound. I mean, this movie was just so captivating. I love Paul Thomas Anderson as a director, and this is easily one of his best, if not his best. I mean, my two favorite, two of his other films that I really, really love, Boogie Nights, of course. That movie's a masterpiece. I kind of always gravitate towards the most, as far as like movies of his that I've watched, is There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day Lewis. That movie is just like at a whole new level. I love that movie to death. But I do love his films. I've always loved his work. But this movie is just at another level. I mean, it's got so many elements to it, which is so wild. And again, this is like, it's based on a book, but I really feel Paul Thomas Anderson did some really new and unique things. I haven't read the book, but from what I've read, he really did expand on it and really, did really made this thing his own thing. This whole story, this whole film, and it's got so many elements because it's super funny. It's kind of labeled as like a black comedy in a lot of ways, but I don't know if I'd say that. I mean, it has some incredible humor. Just for it not being, I guess, like a comedy film per se. It's got some of the funniest dialogue and and scenes in it that I've seen in recent time. Really, really funny. This movie is also a great melodrama, a great character study. It's really focused on the relationship between a father and a daughter. It's very heartfelt. It's very emotional. It's very genuine. So it's very much a melodrama. This movie is also a thriller. Like, it's full on intensity throughout the entire movie. It feels like it's also you could be watching like a Hitchcock film or something. I mean, it's totally, or like a Brian De Palma film. Super intense, and in some ways it's a thriller also. And then also it is a an amazing action film, complete with one of the greatest car chase scenes that have has ever been shot. One of the greatest car chase scenes. So you got all these elements. I mean, on one hand, it's a comedy. On another hand, it's like this really deep kind of melancholy, melodrama story about a father and daughter's relationship, and it's just an incredible thriller. And then it's just also just a kick-ass action movie, and it's got all these elements that is so refreshing to see. One of the greatest experiences, definitely this year, as far as the movie going experience. Tremendous movie, and I'm really glad that this movie has gotten all of the praise that it deserves, because it's probably overall the best thing I've seen in 2025. Just floored by it. Floored. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It is now available for. It's on physical media now, I believe, and it's probably available on all streaming platforms at this point. But my God, so glad to see this in the theater. Yeah, I mean, this is why I love. After we saw it in the theater, I came away feeling like, man, this is why I love going to the movie theater. This is the reason why I do it. And then, slightly off topic, probably the best film going experience, which again, there, one battle after another is pretty much right up there too. But probably overall, the greatest film going experience that I've had this year was going to see the whole bloody affair, Kill Bill 1 and 2. That was absolutely incredible. Definitely the best experiences that I saw that I had this year as far as going to the movies. So a lot of good things, and also, again, one battle after another is right up there, and that's a newer film. But it's been a pretty good year. Definitely some pretty killer movies. So I just wanted to do kind of a year-end roundup of movies that really, I felt at the end of the day really said something. So thanks again, and happy New Year. Peace.